And joining me right now is the chief strategist for the RNC, Mr. Sean Spicer. Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be in New York.
So you heard what he said.
I did.
Over and over and over
I've
again.
heard it a few times.
You've probably heard it on the phone and maybe in person as well. What do you say in response? Is it rigged?
It's a complicated system. There's no question about it. We have 56.
That doesn't sound good.
No, but we have 56 states, territories in the District of Columbia, and each of them devises a plan on how they want to allocate and select their delegates. And I know that that's complicated to folks, but the difference is that we, as a states' rights party, choose to let each state and territory tell us how they want to allocate and select their delegates.
Yeah.
The opposite would be people in Washington saying this is how you must do it. The Democrats try to do that. They try to institute a series of superdelegates that are unelected party bosses that they can override the vote of the people. So while our system is complicated, it is the most grassroots
system. You're saying it's the state that's making this decision. But what do you do in the case of, say, Pennsylvania that's making some bad decisions? And I would say these are bad decisions because the idea that you have 71 delegates and only 17 will be required to vote the way the people actually want them to, that doesn't seem fair to me, Sean.
Well, again, on those 54, each of them is divided out by congressional district. Some of them have pledged that they'll vote however their congressional district is. Some of them have said, if you elect me, this is who I will. They are unbound delegates. But again, everybody understands the process by which those delegates are selected and allocated. Now, again, you're seeing some of them come out very hard and say, if the district goes for this candidate, then that's who I'll support. Some of them making very clear, I will not state my preference. And some of them are saying, no matter how it votes, I'm going to vote for this candidate. So,
why can't you influence them more? Why can't you sit them down and say, hey, Pennsylvania, this doesn't seem very fair. Or Colorado, this doesn't seem very fair. Because Republicans, they want to know that when they go to the ballot box and they cast their ballot, that vote's really going to count. And it can't be taken away from them.
But again, remember, in Colorado, the process was three-tiered. It started at the precinct level. 60,000 people participated. Those people elected delegates that went to a county convention and then on a state convention. And I know that only the attention was paid to the very end of the process. But the process involved a lot of people. And again, Iowa caucuses, Kentucky had a primary, Virginia had a primary, some states have a convention. Why would we want Washington
because
dictating?
It's bad. Isn't it bad for your brand? I mean, can't you go in and say, you know, guys, maybe you should rethink this? Try and encourage them to be more quote-unquote democratic.
But I think as conservatives, one of the things that we believe is that we shouldn't have a top-down Washington approach to things. We should let the state do figure out how to allocate its delegates. And if the people of Pennsylvania and the activists and grassroots supporters there want to change the system and say we should have a system of bound delegates, we should have a primary that binds them, we should have them bound through 1 or 3 or whatever delegates,
and maybe
that
we'll
should
see
be
changes
their
now.
choice,
Do you
not
predict
ours.
we will?
I think some. Look, this cycle, Kentucky went from a primary to a caucus.
Right.
But it was the grassroots folks in Kentucky that drove that decision, not anyone in Washington. So I think that there should be some changes afterwards. I think the supporters and the activists in each state should look at the process, see how well it worked. But here's the really interesting thing, one last thing. This year, for the first time ever, all 50 states, 6 territories in the District of Columbia will participate. That's anathema of what's been happening the last several cycles. We're going to have more people, more states involved in this cycle than ever before. Normally, a state like Pennsylvania would be an afterthought.
Well, let me move on to the Cruz Kasich alliance here. Get your thoughts on that. Totally legit within the boundaries of the rules that you have, but it doesn't sit well with a lot of people, and not just Donald Trump. What's your reaction to it?
Well, I think every campaign's got to employ a strategy that they see best. I mean, I think what it started off as last night, this alliance seems to may have unraveled a little this morning, but each campaign has to decide what's best for them. In the case of some of them, they're pursuing the 1,237 bound delegates, as is the case with the Trump campaign. Other campaigns where it might be more mathematically challenging are going to employ a different strategy, but it's not far be it from us to decide what's best for each of these candidates and how to achieve the nomination.
What do you think of Donald Trump as a nominee?
If he is the selection of those delegates, it doesn't matter what I think. My job is to go out every day and work as hard as possible because any of the 3 individuals that are seeking our nomination are better than Hillary Clinton in the direction she'll take this country.
Do you think you can beat Hillary Clinton with Donald Trump?
Absolutely, we have to. Yeah, it's not a question of can we. We will and we have to because everyone needs to understand.
Isn't this process hurting it, Sean? I mean, this entire process, if you wind up in a contested convention in July, doesn't that process hurt the eventual nominee?
Look, first of all, in 2008, Obama and Clinton went at it epically, called each other names, involved dirty tricks. They had the intensity and enthusiasm on their side and propelled them to victory. If you look at us, everyone has talked about this process. Isn't this going to hurt you? Isn't that going to hurt you? Every one of our our debates has hit a record. Every one of our states has been a high turnout. I mean, the intensity and excitement with the Republican field right now. And so I think the one thing I'll give you is this: we have an opportunity. When we go to Cleveland, we can show people how the democratic process works. We can show them a party that wants to govern. We can show them the solutions we want to give this American.
But you got to amend, right? You got to amend.
And I think that, but we have a great opportunity to show not just Americans, but the rest of the world what a party can be.
Real quick before I let you, how often do you hear from Donald Trump?
I think the chairman talks to him fairly regularly. Sometimes it's 7 days, sometimes 10. But we're in pretty much daily communication with his campaign.
And
as we are with all the campaigns. When you only have three, it's not that hard. Sometimes it's checking in. Sometimes it's, you know, an after action on a particular race. Sometimes it's getting information. But again, it's nothing different than you'd see from the other campaigns. The chairman's in regular contact with the candidates, and the staff is involved with the staff. But sometimes it's a simple logistical question. Sometimes it's about the process. But
I'm going to run. I'm going to take a quick break. Sean Spicer, thank you so much. Good to have you here.